Welcome back to Nick Learns Thai. I'm Nick. So this is going to be the first of a new sort of style of video. It's kind of a vlog style where I'm going to do little to no editing. I found that I had some ideas for videos, but they just weren't getting out because I didn't want to deal with the editing and the work that's involved in all that. Still do some like longer form videos from time to time that are edited, but this is going to kind of be an experiment with a new style. So hopefully I can avoid rambling too much and get through to the content. Now, in this first one, I wanted to cover my progress so far with learning Thai. And as you might have seen in my channel introduction video I just uploaded recently, I'm kind of representing maybe the average learner, not the super learner who can sort of learn Thai in 6 months type person, much more of like average journey of someone, or maybe even below average. But just going to share my experiences because it's actually almost 6 years since I started learning Thai now. And I sort of looking back, I think I'm up to about a B1 level. So I guess like conversational talking, I can also read and write as well. But looking back, sort of 6 years seems like a long time to get there. I mean, it hasn't been all, really hard studying the whole time. So I'll take you through the journey so far and just cover a few of the key points, I guess, that helped to get me and where I sort of accelerated and where I sort of plateaued and stuff like that, just to sort of give you some context for my journey. So let me share my screen here. This works all right. All right, so that should be up there now. And I've got some notes as well. Avoid rambling too much. Okay, so this is like a rough graph showing my progress. Here we got on the side here level B1. I haven't put like, the incremental levels because it's a little bit hard to estimate what those were exactly. But it's kind of just a rough picture. Might not be exactly accurate, but down the bottom here we've got the years up to almost about 6 years now. And then right down the bottom here, I've got some two key things, which is a live class. So throughout the full 6 years, or with some breaks, I've been doing a live class, and that's kind of how I got started with my learning. And then sort of later on, I also added some online tutoring through the platform italki, and this kind of just shows where that matches up to the years. So live class, where these lines kind of match up, and then the italki towards the end here. But I've got some notes here. I'm just going to basically talk through these main 5 points here. And you can sort of see, the acceleration of progress or the level of progress at each of the points. So the very first point to talk about, of course, is this first one. And I think, I'll probably have another video at some point talking about pros and cons of doing a live class and sort of my thoughts on that, and maybe my thoughts on best approach to get the most out of a live class. But certainly, when you start learning, there's a lot to learn at the beginning, particularly with a language like Thai, where there's different kind of writing system, different characters. You've got the tones, which is quite different to English, and lots to learn. So I think I was quite grateful to have a good teacher to teach me that stuff. And of course, my learning acceleration, or it was quite a steep curve here at the beginning. So that was kind of the first point here to mention. But again, I mean, all of this is sort of my journey. So I don't know what it would have been like in a different context if I hadn't done a live class. Perhaps if I'd done italki tutoring at the beginning, it could have been faster or less fast. So this is just kind of my experience. But yes, quite a steep kind of learning curve, or a steep acceleration of learning at the beginning there. Um, and then, of course, I had a break there between classes and I went down a bit. I didn't really do much at all, between the classes there. So kind of went down a bit. But sort of throughout those first almost 3 years there, I had a very kind of slow, continued doing my live class, but it was kind of very slow build up. And of course, COVID was in there somewhere, so it wasn't live the whole time. It went online for a portion, but it was still a class with sort of 8 to 10 people usually, depending on the year. But the next sort of point to talk about is this one here, which was when I learned to type and like touch type. I'm not like 100% touch type. I still have to look at the keyboard sometimes to pick out some characters, particularly characters that are a lot less frequent. But for the most of the frequent characters, I can touch type pretty well without having to look at the keyboard and fairly quick. So I mean, that was after that was almost 3 years in, and it was a suggestion from one of my classmates, and I just went through like an online program to learn. I've got another video about that as well, actually, on my channel, so you can check that out. But this was kind of the point where I first started to think outside the box of just what we were learning in class. Up until that point, I'd pretty much just been doing my classwork, my homework, but basically nothing outside of that. I mean, looking back, obviously not the best way to learn. I mean, part of it was that I wasn't like super focused on making Thai like a huge hobby of mine at the time. I was just kind of happy to just do my class, and that was fun. But also, I could have accelerated. I could have learned a lot quicker if I'd been putting in time outside of class, particularly like practicing speaking and stuff like that. I did very little of that. And in the class, there wasn't that much time, given that there was so many people in there, sort of 10 people, but it wasn't a lot of time to practice speaking. So this is towards the end of this kind of 3 year mark is when I was first kind of looking for doing stuff outside of class, and typing was kind of one of these first things that I started doing and really enjoyed it, really enjoyed the process of learning to type. I could already touch type in English, so I kind of had that skill set behind me already a little bit. And once I could touch type, I started looking for ways I could use that skill. I didn't really have a solid plan for it at that point. I just kind of had it. But that was kind of the point where I started thinking about ways I could be learning and practicing and doing other things outside of my live class. So that was the first kind of point of that. Uh, then I had a big break here with the live class, and of course my level went down a bit there. But towards the end of that break was the next thing that I tried here which was the program Glossica. Now I've got a couple of videos already on my channel. There might even be another one coming talking about Glossica. And it's basically, I think they call it a mass sentence platform where they've just got thousands of different sentences. They've got the audio, they've got the written sentence, and you can listen to it. You can speak it back to practice, and then later you can go and listen to the recordings and hear the difference between the native spoken version and your version. And you can also type it out and practice your typing, practice your spelling, and stuff like that. So I've got a few different advantages from this platform. I'll just refer to my notes here. So I'd sort of learnt to type, but this was great to get the typing practice. And also, I got a lot of value from practicing speaking. So up until that point, like I said, I hadn't been doing much speaking outside of my class. And part of the reason for that was because I didn't have a lot of confidence to speak with native speakers. And so I just wasn't really doing a lot of it. But, I was a bit sort of sheepish, I guess, about my pronunciation as well. But being able to practice kind of on my own with Glossica and hearing the native speaker, then doing my version and hearing it again and just doing it over and over and over like that, it sort of allowed me to practice easily and sort of build up my confidence. And then that was what I needed to kickstart me into actually practicing more with native speakers, which kind of would bring us on to the next point. So restarted my live class by then. Now I didn't sort of continue with Glossica throughout the whole period. So you can look at my other videos to get more of a view, my Glossica videos about what I did with Glossica. But like I definitely think that really helped me with my speaking in particular and just building up the skills there on my own so I could get the confidence to practice with native speakers. And that's what really happened here, which was before this quite steep improvement here, which is when I started using italki and particularly just looking for teachers that did like a speaking practice session. So I had several teachers where throughout the week. So I was doing my live class, but then again, in the live class, there's not a heap of opportunity to practice speaking. So with my italki classes, at the beginning there, I was doing sort of 2 to 3 per week. So And most of them were 1 hours, but one of them I think was 2 hours. So it was sort of 3 to 4 hours per week. And I will just talk. And I just got so much talking practice, which is, a lot more than the almost 0 I was getting before. And that just really accelerated. I don't know. I mean, this looks crazy, the amount of acceleration that I've put on the graph here. It was a lot. I don't know if this is 100% accurate in terms of the amount and the time, over it happened and stuff, but certainly that was probably the biggest thing. Now, I guess one thing you have to be cautious about is that, throughout this other period here, I was probably gaining a lot of skills and like repetitions of vocabulary and stuff like that, which made me, had an effect in my brain towards my learning, but it hadn't kind of manifested itself in terms of speaking yet. And maybe this just kind of pushed me over the edge. So it couldn't, perhaps the italki shouldn't be credited for the entire amount of that growth. Like maybe a lot of that credit should go to stuff that happened in this period. But I mean, certainly it was a huge part of that, like getting that practice in and also practicing online, kind of one-on-one with a tutor is a lot less daunting than sort of putting yourself out there in a group with Thai people online or even on a visit to Thailand, etc. So it was sort of much more comfortable environment. It was super convenient because you just jump online when you have availability, and these teachers they have all different teachers with different schedules, so you can find a time that suits you. So yeah, 100% really, really good progress there from using italki, and that really brought me from, like I was saying, from Glossica, just kind of getting the confidence to start trying speaking, up to being basically sort of conversational on most kind of everyday topics, which is kind of basically where I am at now with my speaking. Now, I have had a plateau since then. I think, I've read and watched videos and stuff from other languages, and a lot of people talk about this kind of intermediate plateau. So perhaps I feel like that's where I am now. Um, but so that's kind of this period here, and this is where I am now, I guess. So just recently, the most recent kind of point here to discuss is where I went down this rabbit hole of YouTube, watching and learning about the science of language learning, which is something I'd never even realized. Well, I guess I realized there must have been something like that, but I hadn't really looked into it. So I watched a whole bunch of lectures. I discovered this guy, Paul Nation, who's really interesting, talking about second language acquisition. And I just started to learn about all those techniques associated with that. I started to realize that vocabulary size is really important, and that perhaps was something that was holding me back and keeping me in this plateau area. So I started to really work on vocabulary a lot, which is kind of this period, the last few months now. And I think I am seeing some benefits from that already. I've been really working on my reading a lot. And trying to get vocabulary from that. And I'm definitely noticing like, I'm spending time working on vocabulary, like with flashcard apps like Anki Deck. And then when I do some reading, I'm picking out words in the reading that were words that I just learned or recently learned in the flashcards. And so I can see how those two different avenues are supporting each other. So I'm really happy with my progress at the moment on that. And I'm also working on some other things. So listening skills, making sure I'm getting some good input and other things like that. So I've got some spreadsheets and stuff I'm using to track my progress and plan. And I'll probably leave that to a different video. But basically this dot here represents getting into the science of learning languages and just planning my next steps for getting past this kind of intermediate plateau here and sort of pushing on beyond the B1 to, I guess, B2 next, and then hopefully sort of C1 after that. But anyway, that gives me a pretty good that's a pretty good overview of my progress over the last 6 years. Once again, feels like a long time, and only to B1. Perhaps, other people could have done it a lot faster. But, broadly speaking, perhaps I could break it down into three different periods, three different 2-year periods. So first couple of years, just doing my live class, very little practice and learning outside of that. So, that was just a very low learning period. Next 2 years was where I started to think about learning more on my own, and I did a few things on that, which is like learning to type, experimenting with some different stuff. I did do other things in that period, like the Typod 101 YouTube videos. I sort of played with them. I tried to read some kind of full length books and experimented with different types of books in there. And then, of course, towards the end of that period, got into Glossica. That was really kind of kickstarted me. And then in the last 2 years, italki has been like a major feature, getting that practice in. And once I had the confidence and the level from italki, I was able to talk more and do language exchange and stuff like that to improve my speaking as well. And then I guess this is right, this sort of the science of learning is right at the beginning of the next period of my learning. So yet to be seen where that's going to go, but I hope to document it here on the channel. And I hope you can stick around and join me for that. So once again, this is Nick from Nick Learns Thai. Thanks for watching this video, the first of my sort of vlog style videos. Hope you enjoyed it. Any comments, questions, suggestions, please put them in the comments below, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.